There's been no shortage of new releases from Wizards of the Coast lately, but my favorite would have to be Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Now, I am a Curse of Strahd fangirl, pretty hardcore. Most of my D&D art is Strahd based, but this is excellent. This has so many monsters, so many tips for crafting your own horrible worlds with horrible monsters and nightmares. As a horror fan, incredible. But what I want to do today is discuss one of my favorite monsters from this book so far. I plan on making subsequent videos about the other monsters, but today we'll be taking a look at this guy, the Nosferatu. And Nosferatu are a special sort of vampire, and you might know them from the classical movie Nosferatu with the terrifying Count Orlok. But D&D Nosferatu are a little different. They're almost like a lesser vampire. Not lesser in terror, lesser in mental faculties, and probably not quite as much of a challenge as, say, Strahd von Zarovich. You know, the big vamp himself. But no, I'm going to read you the selection here on Nosferatu, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think about them. Nosferatu, vicious undead hunters. Nosferatu possess the endless thirst of vampires, but none of their grace. For them, existence is nothing more than an everlasting string of cold, desperate nights punctuated by crimson splashes of momentary warmth and lucidity. These joys are fleeting, as their blood addiction can never be quelled. Nosferatu feed on anything with blood. Heaps of mutilated rats and stables turned to slaughterhouses are typical first signs of a Nosferatu's predation. When the sun interrupts their hunts, Nosferatu retreat to favored ruins, sewers, or caves, caring nothing for their lair's comfort. Rather than retiring to crypts, they seek filthy or inaccessible fissures, places any living soul would avoid. For a few moments after feeding, Nosferatu are lucid and capable of considering more than their next meal. In these instances, Nosferatu recollect glimpses of what they once were, beings who knew pride, intention, and a world beyond the shadows. They might even momentarily be convinced to converse with other creatures. However, those who talk with Nosferatu typically find them selfish, duplicitous creatures whose memories are faded and whose basic respect for life is long dead. And that is very interesting to me as a dungeon master. Why? Because they can be lucid. And during their moments of lucidity, who's to say they look like anything more than a horribly disheveled vampiric elf, some other sort of monster? If you don't know what a Nosferatu is, you wouldn't know better having a conversation with them. Maybe, even, you could watch as your companion slowly begins to twitch. Their words become a little more slurred, until suddenly they're only answering you in fevered grunts and single-syllabic words. And then you see the consciousness leave their eyes, and that's all the warning you have before they descend upon you. And how tragic that could be for the Nosferatu in question. Now, I did some more digging on D&D Beyond, and it says that in general, outside of just the Ravenloft version, Nosferatu are created when a vampire utterly succumbs to its thirst. It no longer cares for anything else. Basically a blood-starved vampire, and this is the point of no return. Which leads to a lot of creative ideas for maybe calling back old NPCs, or ideas for tragedy, and perhaps you're searching for a vampire only to find that it's become a Nosferatu. Now, personally, I am in the process of creating a short-term Ravenloft campaign with this book as a surprise for my party, because I'm not currently DMing, but our DM's birthday is mid next month, so I can have a little campaign done so he doesn't have to DM on his birthday anyway. That campaign is going to surround Nosferatu in particular, because the Nosferatu in question, the main one, not the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord will be his sister. There's going to be a pair of twins, the von Ruthven, the von Ruthven twins, and they are the ruling noble family of Mariposia, their domain. They have no idea that. Let me rephrase that. Only the sister has any idea that they are trapped in a domain of dread, and she doesn't even know the details. She just knows that she's stuck in an endless loop. See, her brother, Heron, he went on an adventure and ended up trapped in a crypt, being turned. He slayed the vampire who turned him, but he had no way out. No blood. So over the months he was stuck there before his sister was able to find and rescue him. It was too late. He was already turned into a Nosferatu. Now, in the process of trying to slay him, he ate a good number of her guard. But being freshly fed, he reached a degree of lucidity, and Aramella, she was able to recognize her brother. What she did was horrific. She charmed and chained the rest of her guards so she would have a steady supply of blood to feed her brother on their way back to the family castle. She, a living human, stalks the village at night in search of people to drag back to the castle dungeons, hooking them to monstrous machinery that faucets their blood into the brother's room. Now, publicly, she declares Heron gravely ill. No one can see him, for his sickness could be contagious. So he walks about the castle in his moments of lucidity, but otherwise remains alone in his room, drinking blood from a faucet, being taken care of by their maid. No one is allowed in. Now, one piece of lore in their domain is that any pair of twins born on the full moon are destined to meet a cruel fate. Their cruel fate was Heron's affliction. But the party won't know off the bat that Heron and Aramella are twins. And that's going to be something that they learn as they proceed. They are there in Mariposia to try to determine the nature of the disappearances. And Aramella, she doesn't want anyone finding out. But it'll be revealed toward the end that, I just started thinking about this recently and I just wanted to talk about it, but it'll be revealed toward the end that Aramella is completely aware of everything that's going on. She's stuck in a loop. Nobody else knows. She has every memory of every time she dies. She wakes up on the day that she's going. I am so sorry with my train of thought. But Aramella wakes up every day, the day before her brother is supposed to leave on this expedition, and she can never stop him. She always goes to find him, and she's always too late. And she does her best to try to keep him alive, but because she seeks a cure. Aramella thinks that there must be some way to bring her brother back to their humanity so they can live as they should. But every time she dies, the cycle repeats itself. She believes she's tried just about everything. She's reached out to make countless pacts, but no one ever answers because no gods can hear her in the domain of dread. The one thing she hasn't tried is killing her brother. That is unthinkable to her. And the only way the party will be able to save the people of Mariposia and release them from their constant time loop that they don't even realize they're stuck in is to kill Heron. The sad part about that is Heron himself is a very sympathetic figure. The party only really ever sees him in a lucid state because he has a constant supply of blood. But he looks horrible. He looks sickly and hairless, and he looks every bit as sick as Aramella says he is. The only person who can tell you who he was before is the maid that goes to check on him, Maeve. His darling Mina. Turns out they were supposed to run away together after he came back from this expedition. Mina doesn't know they're in a loop. Aramella's told her sometimes, and it breaks her heart every single time. I'm gonna stop rambling now, because that's all I really have of that, and it's 12 or so minutes in. But I hope as I continue to do these videos, I will get less and less rambly. I'm not used to talking on camera. TikTok's kind of ruined my ability to talk for more than a minute. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed your time with me as much as I've enjoyed rambling. So, bye.